I just want to invest in people that really want to be the best that they can be.
Hello, beautiful realtors. It's Todd Scrima and Robyn LaVassau, and we are doing a segment called Burn the Boats. So thank you for tuning in. Jim Reed was just with us, but he had to leave to a meeting because we sometimes talky too much and we ran it. But Robyn and I can handle this. So when I think, I don't know, there was a book written in it that these guys went to war and they landed on the beach and then they burnt the boats so that they had to fight and win the war. That's where the saying originally came from. And when I think about this, I don't know if there's a person listening to this that didn't get into this market this last 2.5 years that hasn't thought, am I really doing this? Like, am I going to continue to do this the next 5, 10, 20 years? Me included. Now, mine was about 2 hours long. It was a weeknight, and I had a very rough day. But I'm like, stupid. It's a cycle, and this is just a really hard cycle. Get over it. But it does occur to you when you're in a really tough market, like, am I going to burn the boats, right? Like I did when I first started. Maybe we're 2-3 years in. We're like, this can't be any better. This is the best career in the world. I remember one time I was driving home. I was about 1.5 years into mortgage. And I had just gotten a paycheck. Now, this is 30 years ago, that I had made $19,000. So maybe in today's math, maybe that's $60,000. Or so it was a lot of money, right, for the time. And I came home and I was so proud of myself. I called my father. I said, Dad, I made $19,000. He said, in a month? I said, yes. He said, my God, I never thought you would even make it in that career. You remember I told you not to get in that stupid business? I said, yeah, you told me not to. It's the only time I remember going to get your advice. He says, well, I'm so proud of you. I said, Dad, I'm just getting warmed up. Like, I don't even know half the stuff I need to know yet, like 1.5 years in. I'm just getting warmed up. And do we have that level of exuberance like we did, for most of us listening to stuff like this? We've been in it a while. Do we still have that burn the boat mentality? We love it. We jump out of bed every morning. And Robyn, I'd love to hear your story on burn the boats because I personally don't see you waver very much at all, even through really hard stuff.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think that, gosh, you and I were just talking to, a mentor and friend earlier, and he said certainty is influence. And one of the things that I can say is that, I do believe that to be true. And I think that in the NAR, right, that's just come up. So we're within a couple weeks of NAR being introduced. And as it was coming, I think people either stuck their head in the sand, started to embrace it maybe early, got educated on it. Some people got very fearful of it, if you will. And I think we're still experiencing that, right? And it's going to be clunky for a little bit in these changes. You think about the story, right? And I can't remember this. I think it was like an admiral, somebody, Cortez or something like that. I don't even know if it's a really true story, if it's just a metaphoric story. I don't know. I need to read the book, Burn the Boats. But imagine being on a ship. He's the 600 of them. And they were going to take over this island, Todd. And imagine getting off the boat, everybody. And everyone's looking around all of a sudden going, I don't know that I want to be here. I don't know that this is worth fighting for. I don't know that this is worth dying for. Like, and being so resolute as the general that he looked around and saw the panic on everyone's faces. And he said, light the match, right? Get those boats gone, because what he really, metaphorically, it's saying you can't have a plan B and execute on plan A, right? And we've heard that a million times in business. And I think that in real estate and in lending, we see it all the time where people say, oh, I'm going to, sell Pampered Chef and be a real estate agent. I'm going to bartend and be a loan officer. I'm going to work a normal job. And I've literally had people say, I can't get a hold of the lender because they're working today. Lending at the hardware store, like what's happening right now? And so I think that people kind of say, hey, which really makes it, if we're being honest, about money, not clients, right? Not about conviction, not about certainty. And so when we think about that, I don't know about you, but I don't want to work with anybody on major life decisions that has one toe in the water, right? That isn't not only convicted, but educated, understands, like all in, obsessed, if you will, with the industry that they are representing. If I'm going to choose to, right, work with them as the client. And we have done that a huge disservice in both real estate and lending the moment this got hard. And as things have gotten hard, I think a lot of people have said, instead of, you know what, burn the boats behind me, get all those thoughts gone, get all that doubt gone, I'm going all in, all in. The island in front of me is coaching, it's podcasts, it's reading, it's understanding the new laws, it's role play, it's scripting, it's more cold calls, it's engagement. It's instead they're like, I wonder if I could make a little money over here while this gets easier, right? Like until this gets easier, I hope it gets easier. If you are not the general that says burn those boats, if you're one of the 600, and that's a pretty good metaphor for what realtors are right now, right? There's a huge sea that are looking for plan B. Do we load back up and find a different island? Do we go back home? Maybe this isn't worth it. Or do we light the match? And lighting the match is saying, there is no other option. I'm going to succeed and be the best of the best at this right here. And so, you know, the reason we wanted to bring this up as a topic right now is I think people underestimate our own subconscious mind, right? I think people underestimate the thoughts that we truly have and how much they really dictate our actions. And if you don't have the conviction, the belief in what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you're going to overcome anything that's a change, which this isn't the first one, right? And it's certainly not the last. There will be many, many more to come. Then maybe you're in the wrong business at the end of the day. I hate to say that, but I really believe that both in lending and in real estate. I'll give you a weird little metaphor for it, Todd. Well, not even a metaphor. It's just a true story. I was in an event full of realtors, and actually what our next level head realtor coach is a gal named Marjorie Adam. And a lot of you, if you've ever listened to us or seen us or listened to the National Lunch and Learns that Summit Funding Next Level Coaching puts on, Marjorie's done multiple things. And what we love about Marjorie, one, what an enthusiastic, like all in, birthed those boats years ago and have never looked back, right? She owns her island all day long of being a realtor. She's a boots on the ground in the thick of it, like knows her stuff, practices actively real estate and loves passionately to teach about it and to make people better with their systems, their process, and their overall client experiences. And so as she's doing it, she's teaching for us. She actually came all the way out to Eugene, Todd, and taught at in Eugene, about 150 realtors in the room. And I had a gentleman that I've known forever that's been a title rep walk up to me. And I don't get to go as many events these days because I wear a different hat in the industry than a little officer right now. And he comes up to me and give each other a hug and good to see you. And he leans in and he whispers, I hate new realtors. Now, his job is to love real estate agents. His job is to serve real estate agents. And I'll never forget as he said it, first thing he says to me, right? Like, as we're like giving each other a quick hug. And I patted him on the shoulder and I said, maybe it's time to retire. Right? Because he clearly didn't burn his boats, right? Like he's disenchanted with the shift in probably all of us are working harder than we've ever worked for probably less money, right? There's the new rules, the new regulations, the changes, the flailing in the business, the harder it is to acquire a lead or a client. He's disenchanted with it versus engaged in it, right? Excited about it, challenged by it. And that to me is the definition of burn the boats. It's actually, but ironically, the theme of our next level coaching event that has now welcomed in real estate agents, because at the end of the day, they've always been at the heart of our business, referral partners, and adding true value back into their business. And what better value than not only to develop ourselves, but to develop the real estate agents that work alongside us and serve the clients that we get to work on together at a higher level. So that's really that's how it all came about. How's that?
Yeah, well, no, I love all that. I think that first of all, someone asked me a couple of weeks ago, like, how do I know that I should burn the boat?
Well,
I said, I only said one thing. I said, when you wake up in the morning on Monday or Tuesday, are you ready and roaring to go to work? And I said, that's how you know. And, I had yesterday, my daughter, this is just a quick side story, but an example. I'd take my daughter to Utah for a special girls' school. There's 35 girls in this school. And I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I traveled to Las Vegas, drove 3.5 hours to Utah, drove back 3.5 hours with my ex-wife and her husband, we all get along great, so it was fun, but we ended up getting home at midnight. So I get some sleep, and I get up, my alarm goes off at 6:30 this morning. And I'm just like, man, I look at my schedule. I'm having a cup of coffee. I'm like, oh, I get to talk to Robyn. Oh, it's podcast day today. Oh, I get to meet with, the big project we're doing with Richard. And I'm excited. And that's how you know.
Same.
Now, just to be clear, I'm no different than any of you owning a nationwide mortgage company. It's not been the best of time. It's not. There's a lot of issues. There's a lot of stuff going on. But I still have that feeling. And so it is a feeling. Now, how do you keep that feeling for those that have it, which is what we're talking about? Jim Reed came to Robyn and I, and he runs the coaching division. And he saw we should help add value to our realtors' lives. And I said, what do you have in mind? He says, they should come to our events that we have twice a year for a day and a half. I was like, well, we could experiment with it. That was my first thought, right? Like, I think it's a great idea because a lot of people don't get any sort of, like, who you hang around and the tactics and skills that you develop really are the two things that determine keeping that feeling for those that have it. A lot of people still do. But that environment doesn't exist a lot. So anyway, we did it. We experimented with it once, and then we did it full blast in Dallas at our last event.
Beginning of August.
That was like unbelievable to me because the realtors kept coming up to me and at dinner and stuff, and they were like, I can't believe you guys are putting this on. Like, this is unbelievable. So the cost is minimal. I think it's around a few $100. Don't quote me on that, but it's super cheap. Like, the same events I used to charge $5,000 for, and that Robyn and I were a part of, it was $5,000 to come to a 2-day event. This is a day and a half. It's a few $100. Why did we do it? We do it because last time I looked, every time you do another deal, we have a chance of doing a deal together. And that is a simple mentality, but it's like 1 + 1 = 3 mentality.
Yeah.
We focus, we do focus on the NAR stuff at this one. We focused on the last one. We're going to do it again. Marjorie does a great job with that presentation and understanding all the nuances to it. A lot of lead generation tactics, of course, business planning and goal setting because of the time of the year. So if you're interested in that, send Jim Reed an email. It's jreed, REED, at summitfunding.net, NET, and his assistant will pick up on it and send you the flyer and all that good stuff. But it's really meant for people, like, let's say a realtor's closing 2 deals a month, 1 or 2 deals a month, and they want to get back to 3 or 4 or 5. That's like the ideal client.
Yeah.
I mean, if someone's doing 4 or 5, which would be very uncommon, and they want to double, it would help them as well. But there's just not many of those individuals in this environment right now. So it's really meant for those people that you can make 4 or 5 changes and you could double. And I believe anyone could do that. We see people do it all the time.
It's such a practical, and here's the thing. I think that people get intimidated a little bit, like, oh, there's a mortgage company running it. It's got to be like a hard pressed sales. I can't stress enough to anybody that's even thinking about it. The only thing we focus on is you, meaning the audience member, and how they can develop their own skills, their own business, go home with real implementable items that will move the dial in the business. And I just want to say this. One of the things you said to me, Todd, was it doesn't feel like, Robyn, it feels like you're pretty certain and you don't struggle with whether or not you should burn the boat. And here's what I would say, just as a random quick tip. Marriage is hard. We all know that, right? Anything's really that's worth our while is challenging. Parenting is super hard. Marriage is hard. Work is hard. Staying physically fit, it's hard, right? But anything that's hard is generally very worth it at the end of the day, including a career that you're passionate about. And in my marriage, when John's driving me nuts, and he definitely does that, I literally go to bed at night and I remember 3 things that I absolutely love about him from that exact day or in general, right? And when I wake up, I repeat those 3 things. I do the same thing about work. I always take things that are the good. And I think one of the things that causes people to possibly not think about burning that boat, if you will, is dwelling in the hard parts, the negative parts, the frustrating parts, the disheartening parts, which, if we're being honest, apply to every area of our life. There's disheartening parts to every relationship, right? To everything that we do. There's things that are frustrating in it. But if you stay by choice focused on the things that really pulled your heart there to begin with, right? And then what a difference it can make if you allow yourself to stay there. But if you dwell on the negative, it's no different than choosing to stay in that positive. And I think that helps you instantly burn the boats and stay looking forward.
What you focus on, you get. So if you burnt the boats and you want to keep that steam rolling forward, consider coming to the October event. It's very fun. We have a lot of fun. It's very social. We're basically classes, some of which you get to choose. Some is general, 8 hours that day. And then we have fun at night and then half day the next day. So that's the format. Happy to give you some information if you want to email Jim, JReed, REED @summitfundy.net. Robyn, thank you very much. Go burn the boats if you haven't already. Have a beautiful month, guys. Thanks for listening.